Pay attention to this sentence. This is a sign that she has cheated on you. Old Stoic wisdom. Have you ever had that nagging feeling that the person you're sharing your bed with is no longer the person you once knew? That the warmth of her presence has started to feel distant, as if the spark in her eyes is flickering out, but you can't put your finger on why? Welcome back to the channel, gentlemen. Today, we're tackling a conversation that's long overdue for many men, one that often happens too late after the damage is done, and the silence between two people becomes so deafening it can no longer be ignored. Cheating doesn't always begin with betrayal in the physical sense. Often, it starts with something much more subtle, a widening gap, a quiet drift, missed calls, cold silences, and shallow conversations. Slowly, you go from being her priority to being an afterthought, until one day you realize you're no longer even on the list. Emotional detachment is silent, but its consequences are loud, often echoing through the walls of a relationship in ways that are hard to ignore. In this video, we're going to reveal 4 key phrases that often indicate when a woman has emotionally checked out. These aren't mere random statements, they are red flags, clear signs of emotional unavailability, manipulation, or even an unspoken plan to carve out a life without you. This isn't about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about safeguarding yourself, recognizing what's hidden in plain sight, and learning to see the signs that could protect your heart, your peace, and your future. If you've ever had that unsettling intuition that something isn't right, but couldn't quite explain it, then this is the wake-up call you've been waiting for. Stick with us until the end, because what you'll discover here could completely alter how you view your relationship moving forward. And if you find this video honest, raw, and eye-opening, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue bringing these important conversations into the light, even when others shy away from them. Let's get started. 1. He's just a friend, a classic red flag. In the delicate realm of relationships, there are subtle signs that reveal more than meets the eye, and one of the most insidious is the phrase, "he's just a friend." It often begins in an innocent, almost trivial way. You hear a name mentioned too often, or a laugh that seems too comfortable, or maybe a particular man appears repeatedly in stories. Your partner might assure you he's just a friend, and at first, you may want to trust her. After all, who doesn't like to believe in the best of their significant other? But often, there is more than just a friendship being communicated behind those words. It can be a sign that emotional boundaries are being tested or even shifted, subtly and gradually. The deeper you dig into the context of those 5 words, the more you start to wonder why she feels the need to explain her relationship with him. If it were truly a harmless friendship, why would she need to provide so many justifications? She might tell you he's gay, or that he's been a part of her life for years, or that he's like a brother. These explanations are not necessarily meant to calm your fears, but to ensure his place remains safe, unchallenged, and beyond suspicion. It's worth noting that the more emphatically someone defends a friendship, the more suspicious it can seem. After all, if he really were nothing more than a friend, there would be no need for so much effort to convince you. But instead, she may talk about him with a sense of familiarity that seems to cross a line, or even make efforts to make you like him, hoping that your discomfort will fade if you can just accept the situation. It's a tactic, one that relies on the hope that you'll trust her enough to push aside any discomfort and buy into the narrative she's presenting. But deep down, you may begin to notice unsettling patterns. Her phone lights up more often with his name, and she becomes giddy or distracted when reading his messages. When you express concern, her response might be one of irritation or defensiveness. And instead of validating your feelings, she might make you feel like you're the one with the problem. In such cases, it's not because you're overreacting. It's because you've stumbled onto something she might not have fully admitted to herself yet. A woman who is truly in love with you, who values your relationship, will recognize and prioritize your emotional safety. She won't demand that you tolerate something that makes you feel uncomfortable or insecure. Love should create a sense of security, not doubt. But if she dismisses your concerns, if she tries to make you believe you're being paranoid or overprotective, this is a clear indication that something more is at play. Love and loyalty aren't just about physical boundaries, but emotional ones as well. And when those emotional boundaries are crossed, when the energy and attention that should be directed toward you start to drift elsewhere, there's often more going on than just a simple friendship. Emotional infidelity is a real phenomenon, and it begins not with an overt betrayal, but with the quiet shift of loyalty. It doesn't always start with a kiss or an affair. Sometimes it begins with late-night text messages, private jokes shared that you're not part of, or the way she hides certain conversations, ensuring that you don't see what's really happening. The sad truth is that this kind of emotional intimacy can grow without either party realizing it, or at least without them acknowledging it. Sometimes these friendships evolve into full-blown relationships once the current one ends, and it's all too common. In fact, many men have watched as their girlfriends defended these so-called harmless friendships, only to later find that once the relationship ended, she was with the very same man, and they eventually married. It's not just a coincidence, it's a pattern. The friend who was supposedly just a friend was, in fact, waiting in the wings all along, while your partner kept the door open for him, even if only subconsciously. This uncomfortable reality is something that many men prefer to ignore, but it's time to face it. The phrase, "he's just a friend," isn't always a lie, but it is often incomplete. If she's willing to jeopardize your trust to keep this other man in her life, then she's not truly choosing you. Trust in a relationship is not built on repeated assurances and empty words. It's built on actions that show respect for your feelings and your boundaries, and on a willingness to protect what matters to you, especially when no one is watching. If she's unwilling to protect your emotional security and instead defends a connection with someone else that leaves you feeling uncomfortable or unsafe, then that friendship may be a precursor to something far more damaging. Remember, you don't compete with a friend, you compete with someone she hasn't been honest about. When a woman's emotional energy is divided, you feel it, whether it's in her behaviour, her attention, or the way she prioritizes someone else over you. A woman who truly values you and your relationship won't make you feel like you're in competition with someone else she's keeping on the side. She will make you feel like you are enough, without the shadow of someone waiting for their turn. And if your instincts are telling you something is off, it's crucial to listen to them. Trust isn't built on how often she tells you not to worry, but on her commitment to preserving your peace of mind and emotional security. The real test lies in how she responds when you express concern. If she invalidates your feelings or gaslights you into thinking you're imagining things, it's time to take a step back. It might be time to look more closely at what's really going on, because in matters of the heart, emotional loyalty is just as important as physical fidelity. Trust isn't just about what she says, it's about what she's willing to protect and who she's willing to protect you from. Emotional infidelity may start small, but if left unchecked, it can lead to a deeper breach of trust that no amount of justification can repair. 2. Gaslighting and deflecting accountability. There comes a time in every relationship, a moment, when something feels off. It's subtle at first. An odd tone in her voice, a shift in her posture, a pause in her usual rhythm of conversation. The answers she gives are hesitant, incomplete, or contradictory. You sense the tension, you notice the lies, but when you bring it up, she deflects. The conversation you thought you were having quickly turns into something else, something darker. Suddenly, you're the one on trial. You're told you're overreacting, that you're insecure, that you're being paranoid. Your instincts, your gut, everything inside you screams that something is wrong. But instead of addressing it, she flips the script. It's not about the truth anymore. It's about making you feel like the problem. She distorts the reality to make you question your own judgment, your own perception. You're not confronting an issue. You're confronting a gaslighting master. It's a tactic of manipulation, a way to make you doubt yourself, to shrink, to lose your power. She doesn't just ignore your concerns, she makes you feel guilty for having them in the first place. This isn't just miscommunication or a small misunderstanding. This is deliberate mental manipulation. In these moments, when the truth starts to slip through the cracks, you find yourself apologizing for seeing the signs she leaves behind. She may not outright accuse you of being the one in the wrong, but watch closely. She'll plant the seeds of doubt. She'll turn the spotlight onto you, making it seem like your suspicion is the real issue. She might even go as far as projecting the accusation onto you. Why do you think I would cheat? Maybe you're the one who's unfaithful. It's a classic move, a form of psychological warfare designed to disarm you. She knows that when you start questioning yourself, you're no longer a threat. It's a brilliant maneuver, making you feel like you're in the wrong, even though deep down, you know you're not. But here's where you need to stop. Your gut is telling you something, and you're at the crossroads where you can either ignore it or listen to it. Gaslighting doesn't come in the form of loud, dramatic confrontations. It's quiet, insidious, and it wears you down over time. It plants doubt, not just in the moment, but in your mind, in your soul. It's a whisper that tries to drown out your own voice, to make you believe that your perception is wrong, that your instincts are flawed. The inconsistency in her stories is a telltale sign. One moment, it's just a girls' night, and the next, you hear of a guy being there. She brushes it off, calls you crazy for thinking anything of it, but inside, you feel that discomfort, that nagging question. Why did she say that, when it didn't match her original story? It's in those small contradictions, those fleeting moments of inconsistency, where the truth leaks out. And yet, it's never the big things that cause the most damage. It's the accumulation of these small, seemingly insignificant details over time. Don't let her turn you into the villain of your own story. If something doesn't feel right, it's because it isn't. Your peace is your most valuable asset, and it's not worth sacrificing for half-truths or deflections. Your intuition is sharper than you realize. It doesn't need to be validated by every single fact lining up in perfect harmony. When the truth feels off, trust that feeling. Even if the narrative doesn't make perfect sense on the surface, there's a reason your mind is whispering to you, urging you to pay attention. Remember, the truth does not change according to our ability to stomach it. Zrenia Flannery O'Connor. What she's doing, in essence, is attempting to rewrite the truth, to reshape the story, to shift the narrative in her favor. Don't let her. You're not paranoid, you're not insecure, you're just paying attention to the signs. And let me tell you this, it's not just about catching her in a lie, it's about recognizing your own power. This is where you take control, not by doubting yourself, but by standing firm in what you know. No one, especially not someone who's actively trying to gaslight you, has the power to make you question your own perception of reality unless you allow it. When you feel that discomfort, when the inconsistencies start stacking up, you are right to feel that way. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're the crazy one. There is great power in clarity. Once you stop second-guessing yourself, once you refuse to accept the blame she's trying to place on you, you take back control. In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. The Logos, George Orwell. The moment you trust your instincts again, the moment you stop allowing her to dictate the narrative, that's when the fog clears. Trust yourself. Trust your gut. Because when your spirit is unsettled, it's for a reason. And no amount of deflection or gaslighting can change that. So, let this be a warning. Do not be fooled by the subtlety of gaslighting. Do not fall into the trap of blaming yourself when your instincts are perfectly in tune with the truth. Your clarity, your certainty, your confidence, those are the weapons she cannot take from you unless you let her. Your peace is invaluable, and it's yours to protect. Don't settle for lies. Stand firm. The truth will set you free. And the moment you stop doubting yourself, you'll see the situation for what it truly is. Let your actions speak louder than any manipulation she tries to throw your way. 3. I need space. When a woman tells you that she needs space, It's often framed in a way that makes it sound like a simple request for personal time, a healthy step back to rediscover herself or gain some clarity. It might even seem thoughtful, as if she's stepping away to reflect on the relationship or her own life. But while this may be the initial message, the reality is often far different. In fact, the space she asks for rarely remains empty. The truth is, this subtle phrase is a sign of emotional distancing, one that signals something far deeper than just a need for solitude or self-reflection. It's frequently the precursor to her detachment, and often the arrival of someone else in her life. This phrase, "I need space," is one of the most misunderstood signals in modern relationships. What appears to be a pause, a brief moment to breathe and reassess, is often a polite way of cushioning the reality that she's already begun to detach emotionally. Rather than using this time to reconsider the relationship or work on her own personal growth, she is opening the door to a new chapter without fully closing the one she has with you. The moments that were once shared with you start to fade away. She no longer responds as frequently to your texts, and when she does, the warmth in her messages has noticeably cooled. Calls that once lasted for hours turn into brief, business-like exchanges, and any attempts to connect on a deeper level feel like a distant memory. It's in this subtle shift that you'll begin to notice the absence of the emotional intimacy you once shared. It isn't about stress or needing space to decompress from a hectic life. It's about a lack of interest in you as her partner. Her physical closeness diminishes not because she's overwhelmed, but because she's no longer invested. Slowly, her time and attention are redirected towards new people and activities that don't include you. You may start hearing about a new friend she's been spending time with, and while the words, "he's just a friend," may come up, you can feel the absence of emotional closeness. That shift in her behaviour speaks volumes, even if the words coming out of her mouth say something different. What often happens next is where many men falter. They see the distance growing and, out of fear or desperation, start to chase. They send more texts, make more calls, and try to prove their worth, thinking that they can win her back by doing more or being more. But in doing so, they miss the key lesson here. Chasing someone who is already pulling away only amplifies the distance. She is already emotionally moved away, and no amount of pleading will reverse that shift. The more you pursue her, the more you inadvertently show her that your own emotional stability is dependent on her presence, which only weakens your position. The real question is not about whether you can prove to her that you're worth staying for, but whether you can honour her request for space in a way that demonstrates your self-respect. She isn't asking for space to fix the relationship. She's asking for space to test life without you while keeping a back door open, just in case things don't work out with the new direction she's taking. In the quiet absence that follows, she watches how you respond to her withdrawal. It's a test of your own boundaries and self-worth. The most powerful response isn't to argue or explain, but to completely honour her need for space. Step back, not out of anger or bitterness, but out of respect for yourself and the understanding that chasing her will only push her further away. By giving her the space she's asking for, you demonstrate that you value yourself enough to let her go. The space she creates in the relationship becomes the clearest indicator of her intentions. If she uses that time to explore a life without you and to grow closer to someone else, the truth is right there in front of you. It's not in her words, but in the physical and emotional distance she's created. In modern life, we often try to hold on to what we fear losing, but sometimes the best way to move forward is to step back and allow the situation to reveal its true nature. Only then can you see whether she is walking away for good, or if there's a path back to reconciliation, and that path is determined by your ability to maintain your own dignity and emotional independence, regardless of the outcome. 4. You deserve someone better. The final signal. There's a moment in some breakups that feels more confusing than heartbreaking. She sits quietly, maybe with a look of regret or a practiced calm, and says what sounds like a compliment, but lands like a verdict. You deserve someone better. The words are delivered softly, as if she's doing you a kindness and handing you a truth that should make you feel grateful. But underneath that polished sentence is a quiet unravelling of something already broken. And the real message, the one she's not saying aloud, is far less noble. I've already left. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. When a woman says those words, she's almost always gone. Maybe not physically, not officially, but emotionally. She's no longer in the room with you. The warmth has faded. Her presence has shifted, and something in her tone now carries distance instead of care. You'll start to notice how the conversations grow shorter, how the eye contact disappears, and how her touch feels more like a habit than a connection. She's already withdrawn from the relationship, and what you hear now isn't a conversation. It's the closing line. This phrase is one of the cleanest emotional exit strategies she can use. It gives her the moral high ground while protecting her from guilt. Instead of saying, "I've lost interest or met someone else," she says, "You deserve more." A statement that frames you as the victim of a decision made with compassion. But in truth, she's asking for a smooth exit, one without confrontation, without difficult questions, and without having to explain choices she may not want to admit, especially if she's already emotionally or physically involved with someone else. This phrase allows her to move forward without carrying the weight of betrayal. She gives you the appearance of agency while controlling the direction of the outcome. The tactic works because it flips the emotional script. Suddenly, you're not the one being left. You're being offered freedom. She frames the breakup as a gift to you rather than an escape for her. And it works exceptionally well if you're still trying to make things work, hopeful and unaware of how far gone she is. You may find yourself responding with confusion or even gratitude, not realizing that what's happening is a carefully worded way to shift the emotional labor of the breakup onto your shoulders. Many men make the mistake of trying to fix things at this point. They think maybe she's just tired or confused or needs reassurance. They offer to do better and communicate more, to change whatever they believed pushed her away. But when a woman says you deserve better, she has already rehearsed her exit internally. She is not asking for solutions. She's asking for closure without the mess. Trying to win her back at this point isn't strength. It's a delay of the inevitable and a slow erosion of your dignity. The right move is counterintuitive but powerful. You let her go without begging, bargaining, or needing the whole story because the truth is already there in the silence behind her words. She's no longer emotionally invested, and she wants you to make the ending easier for her. Your acceptance isn't a loss. It's self-respect. It's understanding that if someone truly valued you, they wouldn't leave you under the illusion of being helped to heal. They would stay and face the discomfort of working through it. There's an old saying worth remembering. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. In this case, when she tells you deserve better, don't read it as humility or love. Read it as her way of asking to be released from the role she no longer wants to play. And the sooner you recognize that, the sooner you stop holding on to someone who has already let go. Healing begins not when you chase closure, but when you choose clarity. And clarity comes when you understand that real love doesn't end with a catchphrase dressed up as compassion. It either fights to stay or it walks away honestly. Anything else is just a carefully worded goodbye. 5. I'm just going through a lot right now. When a woman says, "I'm just going through a lot right now," it can appear as a genuine plea for understanding, a cry for help, or simply a moment of vulnerability. At first glance, this may seem like a reasonable excuse, an invitation for you to give her the space to work through her difficulties. But let me be clear, in the world of relationships, especially for men who are sharp, observant, and willing to trust their instincts, this phrase can be a warning sign, a flashing red light. It's the kind of statement that hides a deeper truth, one that you must not ignore if you wish to retain your power and control in the relationship. We live in a world where emotions often hide behind excuses, and that statement, no matter how soft or well-meaning it may sound, can signal that she's emotionally disengaging, that she's withdrawing, and possibly already envisioning a future where you no longer play a central role. Yes, there might be external challenges in her life, stress from work, family drama, or personal turmoil, but the harsh reality is that when a woman truly values you and the bond you share, She doesn't make you feel secondary during times of stress. Instead, she draws closer, seeking support, comfort, and strength from you. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity, said Sun Tzu, and this applies to relationships as well. Stress should bring two people together, not push them apart. If she consistently uses this phrase or repeats it like a mantra, this is a strategy to divert your attention from the real issue at hand, the waning connection between you two. And let's be honest, when the emotional walls begin to rise, it's rarely the chaos of her life that's the culprit. It's the emotional distance she's been quietly cultivating. Here's the undeniable truth. When a woman is truly committed to the relationship, when she still desires to be with you, you will not feel like an afterthought. She will not place you on the back burner, waiting until things settle down. She will instead involve you in her struggles, will look for ways to strengthen the relationship, not let it wither. This phrase, "I'm just going through a lot," may be used to distract you from the real emotional undercurrent running through your relationship. It's a shield, a way to avoid confronting her dwindling attraction or emotional disconnect. Do not fall into the trap of thinking that you're at fault, or that this is merely a phase that will pass with time. The longer this phrase is used, the more it becomes an excuse, a reason to avoid the uncomfortable truth that she might be slipping away. Take stock of her behavior during this time. Does she still make an effort to communicate with you, to invest emotionally, to keep the flame alive? Or do you find yourself scrambling for scraps of attention while she seems more absorbed in her own world, less inclined to engage with you on a deep level? When you notice this shift, it's time to stop making excuses for her. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. If you're feeling like a secondary priority, if you're being pushed aside while she deals with her stuff, then the path forward is clear. Re-evaluate. You must recognize the power you have in deciding whether you will continue to invest in a relationship where you are no longer the primary focus. She may claim that things will improve once she's through her struggles, but if she has consistently distanced herself emotionally, you must ask yourself, does she even want you to be there when she emerges from this phase? The power of a relationship lies in the mutual effort, trust, and emotional investment from both partners. It's not about waiting for someone to come around after they've decided to pull away. In modern life, we often get caught up in the idea of sacrifice, of patience, of waiting for things to get better. But true strength in relationships comes from action. If you want a partner who values you, who is emotionally available and engaged, you need to demand it. Do not sit idly by, hoping that time will heal the wounds of a relationship that's been neglected. Remember, the truth often lies not in the words, but in the actions. So, listen carefully, observe closely, and never let your emotions cloud the reality of what's truly happening. The moment you stop settling for being a second priority, you reclaim your power. This is your life, and you are the architect of your destiny. Don't let anyone dim your light. 6. I don't know what I want anymore. When a woman says, "I don't know what I want anymore," it can feel like an emotional grenade exploding in the heart of a relationship. On the surface, it might appear as though she's simply grappling with uncertainty or confusion about the future, and as a partner, your instinct may be to jump in, to reassure her, to offer your support, and try to help her find clarity. However, beneath this seemingly innocent admission often lies something much deeper, an emotional distance that has already begun to grow between you. It's not just a passing moment of indecision, it's a profound sign that her emotional connection to the relationship, and potentially to you, has started to unravel. While she may not have made a clear decision about the future yet, the very fact that she's uttering those words is an indication that her heart has already started questioning the relationship's viability. And if you're not careful, this could be the beginning of an inevitable end. The phrase, "I don't know what I want anymore," doesn't just mean she's lost in thought about the relationship. It reflects a critical shift in her emotional commitment. In essence, It signals that the emotional clarity and certainty that once anchored your bond are now crumbling. Her indecision is often not about needing time to think. It's about a loss of direction in how she feels about you and the partnership you share. What makes this statement particularly alarming is that it often marks a breakdown in the emotional investment she had once poured into the relationship. While she may not yet have made a firm decision to leave or move on, she's emotionally checked out to some extent, and those feelings of uncertainty she's expressing are usually an indicator that the emotional foundation you once built together is beginning to erode. It's easy to dismiss these words as a temporary phase, thinking that perhaps she's just overwhelmed by life's pressures, or that she just needs space to figure things out. But the reality is, when someone reaches this point, it's rarely about needing time for self-reflection. It's often the manifestation of an underlying loss of emotional connection. And when she says she doesn't know what she wants, what she's really telling you, without realizing it, is that she's already distanced herself emotionally. Whether she's aware of it or not, she's communicating a subtle but significant shift in her level of commitment to you and to the relationship as a whole. In modern relationships, where people are constantly managing the pressures of work, personal goals, and individual growth, this phrase may come across as just another bump in the road, but it's important to recognize it as a symptom of something more profound that's happening beneath the surface. When a partner is uncertain about their feelings and unsure of what they want, it's a sign that the emotional glue that once held the relationship together is beginning to dissolve. If she's unsure about what she wants, then the odds are high that she no longer envisions a future with you, at least not in the way she once did. This isn't necessarily because of something you did wrong, but rather because something inside her has shifted, and her vision for the future no longer aligns with yours. Relationships are built on shared goals, mutual understanding, and a sense of connection to one another's dreams. When one person starts to waver on that front, it's usually a red flag that they no longer see you as a key part of that future. At this stage, it's crucial not to dismiss or minimize her words. Though it's tempting to convince yourself that she's simply going through a phase, the reality is that a relationship doesn't thrive on uncertainty. It thrives on shared vision, commitment, and mutual emotional investment. If she's expressing doubts about what she wants and is unclear about the direction of the relationship, it often signals that she's already begun to emotionally disengage. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that with time, she'll come around, that once the dust settles, her feelings will return to what they once were. Unfortunately, that's rarely the case. Once someone begins to voice their indecision, it's often a sign that the emotional bond has weakened to a point where it's no longer sustainable. Rather than hoping she'll snap out of it, it's time to face the reality that she may be emotionally drifting away. This is a crucial moment for you to take a step back and reflect on your own position within the relationship. While it's natural to want to hold on to the hope of things getting better, it's equally important to evaluate your worth and consider whether you want to continue investing in a relationship where the other person is uncertain. Her feelings may not be as clear as you'd like them to be, but yours should be. Are you willing to stick around and invest time, energy, and emotion into a relationship where the other person is unsure of their commitment to you? A healthy, fulfilling relationship requires two people who are both emotionally available and committed to each other. If one person starts to pull back, it may be time to reassess whether this is the right relationship for you moving forward. In modern life, where people often juggle multiple responsibilities and personal aspirations, it's not uncommon for relationships to face periods of doubt. However, this phrase, "I don't know what I want anymore," is different from typical relationship struggles. It's a sign that the emotional fabric of the relationship has started to unravel, and unless addressed, this uncertainty can snowball into a permanent disengagement. Don't allow yourself to be swept up in the hope that things will just fix themselves. Instead, take a step back and evaluate whether you're in a relationship where mutual growth, understanding, and commitment still exist. If they don't, it might be time to let go, knowing that sometimes emotional distance is a sign that both parties need space to find their own clarity. This is not a call to give up prematurely, but rather an invitation to take a hard look at where things stand and whether it's worth continuing to invest in a relationship where emotional certainty has already started to fade. Don't settle for half effort. Cheating at its core is rarely impulsive. It's not something that happens suddenly without warning. It's a gradual unraveling of emotional connection, loyalty, and respect. And as we've seen throughout this video, it often begins with small, seemingly innocent phrases that many men overlook. He's just a friend. You're being insecure. I need space. You deserve someone better. These aren't just words, they're cues. They're signals that something has shifted beneath the surface. When a woman begins to disconnect emotionally, the language she uses changes. Her behaviour becomes more guarded, her presence more distant, and her reassurances start to feel hollow. She may not admit it directly, but she tells you what you need to know if you can hear it through her words and actions. This situation is so painful for many men because of the betrayal and the realization that they ignored their intuition for far too long. They questioned their gut feelings, tried to be more understanding, gave more chances, and made excuses for what they felt to be true. But emotional infidelity and the patterns that lead to it rarely correct themselves. Once respect is lost and another person begins to occupy emotional space in her heart, the relationship you once had is no longer the same. This isn't about blaming women, nor is it about encouraging distrust. It's about learning to listen to what's unsaid. A woman still emotionally committed will do everything she can to protect the relationship. Honor your boundaries, prioritize your feelings, and communicate openly. But when she begins to use language that deflects accountability, manipulates through guilt, or seeks space without clarity, it's often a sign that she's already started emotionally exiting the relationship. And here's the truth. You are not responsible for convincing someone to stay. You are not meant to beg for love, loyalty, or clarity. When a person shows signs of detachment, especially in vague phrases or defensive behaviour, it's not your job to decode or fix it. Observing, assessing, and protecting your emotional well-being is your job. Staying in a one-sided relationship, hoping that love alone will bring them back, only prolongs your pain and delays your healing. A man of value does not chase half-hearted affection. He does not tolerate ambiguity, nor allow himself to be strung along by someone emotionally elsewhere. Instead, he moves with quiet confidence, walking away from what no longer serves him and making space for peace, clarity, and growth. That is strength, not anger, not revenge, but the ability to detach with dignity. So, as we close, ask yourself honestly, are you accepting less than what you deserve? Are you hoping her words mean something different than they truly imply? And if so, are you ready to choose self-respect over confusion? I'd love to hear your story. Have you ever been on the receiving end of phrases like these? What was your gut reaction? Did it shake you, shape you, or strengthen you? How did it shift the way you see yourself or the people you let into your world? Drop your experience in the comments. Raw, honest, unfiltered. You never know who needs to hear your voice. Sometimes your pain becomes someone else's light. And if this video sparked something in you, if it helped you see the game for what it is or reminded you of your true value, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications because we're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover about emotional mastery, high-value living, and building unshakable self-worth. This is more than a channel. It's a movement for men who are done chasing and ready to rise. Until next time, guard your mind, honor your heart, and walk like a man who knows exactly who he is.